Coming up next hour, I'm going to play Representative Dingell saying we have to control the people. That's what the health care bill is all about. I don't think this guy can even control his bowels, but he wants to control our lives. That was one comment I saw on the Bret Bart website. You got to laugh at some of this stuff. I also want to get into Mother Furious after in-school clinic sets up teens' abortion. Let's just... no, I'm going to cover that next hour, too. I'm going to cover that next hour. There's just so much here, but I want to continue taking your phone calls here. Let's go ahead and talk to George in Connecticut. You're on the air, George.
Hi, Alex. I had some ideas. I think that these criminal families at the top, the 13 top families or whatever number of families they are, at the top of this pyramid that are pulling this stuff, why not have turn this upside down on them? If they collapse the dollar, that if they want socialism, let's have real socialism. Let's go after the 5% at the top, everything they own, the oil reserves, the land they own, the gold reserves.
Well, the top 5%, people that make $150,000 a year are in the 4 and 5 percentile. You want the top 99999 because that top, 1 out of 10,000 people, they have most of the wealth.
Well, I thought there was a larger percentage there, but another idea I had, I thought it was a larger percentage. Maybe it's 1% or 2%, whatever they call it. But I thought maybe it's larger.
No, when Obama says we're taxing the top 2%, that's people over $125,000 a year or couples 250. They're in the top 2. I mean, not most Americans don't even make $50,000. If you're making $100,000, you're in the top 5%, folks.
Didn't even realize it. See, I'm in Connecticut, and you're almost poor. You're literally poor if you're under $50,000. I'm not getting the cost of.
Hey, in Manhattan, if you're making $100,000 a year, you're poor. In San Francisco, you need $100,000 a year. That's very middle class in Texas because of the cost of living. Because wherever you got big government, there's a high cost of living.
Another quick idea I had as a brainstormer. If they try to collapse the dollar, why not tell all the states they unite under a new united front and don't let any federal tax? And what they do with the excess tax that they don't use for their own deficits or situation, that they buy gold and silver and refloat a currency that has a silver certificate of some sort. That way, then they screw up the bankers who think that they have.
Well, look, I'll go one further, George in Connecticut. We need to identify the private banking families as the criminals, as the mafia. That's all they are, is a mafia that controls the banks and the issuance of currency and credit. No wonder we're in so much trouble. Identify them as the enemy, and they've committed all sorts of crimes, not saying where the trillions are, and arrest a couple thousand of these people. We've got all the evidence, and arrest the people that staged 9/11, and we could turn this around. The problem is there's so many crooks right beneath them that if you do that, they'll normally arrest the crooks above them. The communists and fascists always do this, and just take over the system. I mean, I figure you could charge over 100,000 people at the highest levels of government and corporate America and globalist, 100,000 of them, send them to prison. I mean, we just arrest their stinking butts. We got the evidence, give them a trial, but see, they control the courts. But if we identify them as the enemy, it could end up like Ceausescu's Romania. And that's my whole point. The government wants us to have a fight with the police and the military. No, we wake them up. Then we arrest the top 1% of 1,000. You understand?
Right.
But you do it through due process. You don't have a French Revolution with guillotines. I appreciate your call. And then 500,000 people got killed. And then if somebody wanted your wife and you were poor, they killed you. Because a group of criminals came in and did that. We want to have an orderly restoration of the republic and the arrest of the criminal revolutionaries that have taken over our government. Coming up in the next segment, transforming the TSA into a military intelligence operation. And that dovetails with my article about police around the country being trained for martial law and checkpoints. In fact, I moved that article. Will you guys reprint that law enforcement article I had? Because that ties in to all this other news I have. We're also going to get into public schools, taking your 10, 12, 13, 14-year-old daughters without your authorization for abortions. It's coming out all over the news. It's in the health care bill. I'm going to get more into some of the most important parts of the health care bill. And next on the criminals' agenda running our country, their move to have total amnesty for the illegal aliens and to pass the global carbon tax initiative under treaty. And that's in the health care bill. Over and over again, it says to comply with UN mandates to take over our lives. So that is all coming up. Paul Watson joins us in the next segment for what's happening with TSA in the U.S. and their counterparts in England, videotaping people in the body scanners, saving it, laughing at people, commenting on women's breasts. I've seen it on the news where they all smile and get a good-looking woman in there and look at her naked body. It's all part of the act of humiliation. But right now, let's go back to your call. Steve in Pennsylvania, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex, thank you very much for your show.
Thank you.
I'm a disabled Vietnam veteran, and what they do to us up at the VA hospital, there was a time there, every time I would come into the VA hospital to be treated, I would have 4 or 5 police officers called to the rescue because I was a danger patient and I'm in a wheelchair.
Well, I mean, we've seen the horrors, people dying of maggot infestations. This is the one area where government did run health care, and look how bad it was.
Well, it's just the way they run things here. You know, I haven't had any drugs since '73 in my system, and I had a nurse up there that was always giving me a hard time, you know, and she would make me take these urine tests to see if there was any illegal drugs in my system, you know. I haven't had a beer in 25 years, you know what I mean? And one day I was there and I had to take a test because she was holding a prescription in her hand and then a urine bottle in the other hand. If I peed in the bottle, I got my prescriptions. If I didn't, the 4 or 5 police officers would give me a bad time, you know. And one incident that happened, I went and I took a urine test. I got my went to get my prescription, and she told me I had to take another urine test. I told her I just did take a test. She says, "Well, I don't believe you. You got to take another test." So I'm not going to argue with her because I really need my pain medicine, you know. And I waited for the report to come back because over the past 5-10 years, all the reports come back negative. Well, that day, I took 2 urine tests. Okay, I was in the hospital 18 hours to get a bottle of pain pills. 18 hours. Can you believe that? And I waited for the test to come back. One test come back negative and the other test come back hot. Now, how could that possibly be?
Well, it's all about bureaucracy. It's all about contracts with private companies. Remember last year, in fact, I covered that article yesterday, Obama wanted veterans to have to buy their own insurance. They hate you. You can't pay them taxes anymore. They want you dead. They're eugenicists. They think human beings are garbage. The world only belongs to them.
Well, I told them, I says, if this is the kind of life that I have to live, I don't want to come here and fight and be afraid to come here. I don't want to live at all. They tried to lock me up in a institution that I was depressed and going to commit suicide. You know, it took me almost, I had to file motions in federal court for harassment before they finally stopped.
Well, they're putting most veterans now on PTSD lists, and you can't buy guns, even though there's no law saying because some government quack psychiatrist says you're mentally ill, they just still label you basically as a terrorist, and you lose your Second Amendment. News blitzes, Paul Watson, and a lot more coming up. Stay with us. We'll be right back here on Genesis. Infowars.com is the website.